This is a summary of the novel The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. This novel was published in 1952, and it begins with this old man by the name of Santiago. And this man is a fisherman. Um, he he lives in Cuba. The novel begins with him struggling to catch fish. When he was young, he was a very um, he was able to catch a lot of fish, and he was really respected by a lot of people in his community. But in the novel, when we're introduced to this man, Santiago has gone 84 days without catching a fish. And to a fisherman, that's really bad because that is his livelihood. That is how he feeds himself. That's his job. So the fact that in the novel he's gone so many days without catching fish, it really affects him, and not only his finances, this affects his pride. So in the novel, Santiago has this boy, which he's very fond of. They were partners. Santiago, in a way, he kind of sees this boy as his son. He kind of seen this boy as his apprentice, and they're very close within the novel. However, after Santiago spent so much time without catching a fish, the boy's parents say, you have to leave Santiago and go to another ship because Santiago's not lucky. He's very unlucky, and you can't stay with him. So in the novel, we see this boy. He goes to another ship, and Santiago is left alone. In his community, the other fishermen, they in a way laugh. Well, they laugh at Santiago. They make fun of him because they say that he's dried up. He's an old man. He doesn't know how to fish anymore, and this really hurt Santiago because fishing was his craft. He felt pride from it. It was something that was really treasured to him because that defined him. Fishing defined him, and the idea that he couldn't do it anymore, and the idea that people were laughing at him, really impacted his self-esteem. So most of this novel is really set at sea because after all of this takes place, we see Santiago sets out at sea and he's very determined to catch fish. Too many people have made fun of him. Too many people have, looked down on him. But even though he's old, even though he's lost a lot of things in his life, he's like, I'm old, but I'm going to make the best of this. I'm going to go catch a fish. And Santiago sets out, and he's alone. He doesn't have the boy anymore to help him. So he sets out on his own, and he goes out really deep into sea. He passes the area in which fishermen are supposed to stay, and he goes out on his own. He tries to find a fish. In the novel, he doesn't really prepare for what's about to happen. He just sets out. He brings some food, some tuna to eat, and this is where the book to me gets very interesting because Santiago, while he's at sea, he's very far at sea. He gets a bite on his line, and it's a very huge fish. He catches a 200-pound fish. This marlin, that's the name of the kind of fish. So he catches this marlin, but the marlin is so big that he can't bring it onto his boat. Um, he can't really kill it because it's so big and it's dragging his boat out to sea. So since Santiago is such a skilled fisherman, he knows what to do. He knows that this is not an ordinary type of fishing. It's not ordinary. It's not really ordinary because this fish is so big and it's so different that he's gonna have to wear it out. He's gonna have to wear this fish out. So he lets the fish drag him around the ocean, and what the fish does, it goes far into sea. And one thing I really liked about this is that it showed the hunter and the prey, because the fish was not panicking in this novel. The fish, for the first few for the first day or two, the fish looked like it was in control. The fish had complete control over the situation. And in the same way, Santiago wasn't panicking either. It was an ace versus an ace, because Santiago was a skilled fisherman, and this fish that he had caught was a very wise fish. And what I mean by that is that this fish, this marlin, probably had experience of other fishermen trying to um, hunt it. It had other experience with other fishermen trying to kill it. So this is a back and forth fight. It lasts 3 days in the novel with Santiago and this fish. The way that Santiago takes down this fish, he hooks it. The fish like bites on into his bait, and it's just a back and forth kind of thing. And the fish, Santiago's plan is to tire out the fish, and that's what he does in the novel. And I really like this because even though Santiago is old, even though Santiago is not in his prime anymore, the wisdom that he's gathered over the years, the knowledge that he has of fishing, really helps him because he stays composed. This man fights tiredness. He fights his old age. He fights the ridicule that he's been getting from his peers, his community, and he's so determined. Even though that he's facing this tough situation, he still drives forward. In the novel, I'm trying to keep hold of the fish. His hands get cut up, and his hands are so cut up that they are there are holes in his hands. They're like scars in his hands because he is tugging and fighting with this fish the whole novel, and the fish is not giving up, and he is not giving up, and he's maneuvering around this little boat. One hand on his line, and the other hand feeding himself. He's catching other fish, and to me, Santiago really seemed like a tough guy because most people, if you go that far out to sea and you don't have like, a GPS in the modern day or things like that, you would be freaking out because you're like, okay, I'm lost at sea. But Santiago is such a skilled fisherman that he's not worried about being lost. He says, like, I can find my way home no matter what. I know the sea. He even says that a person, if he knows himself, if he knows the sea, you're never truly lost at sea. So this epic fight goes down. Well, it's not actually a fight, but I think that between Santiago and the fish, there was a mental battle going on. Even though that the fish is not thinking on a human level, it was thinking on its own level, and Santiago was there right with it. They're trying to outsmart each other. The fish is trying different things to throw Santiago off, and Santiago's doing the same thing to throw the fish off. So there's even this part in the novel where Santiago says that it's either you kill me or I kill you. So really, it's an epic battle. Um, One thing that's important to recognize within this novel is like who Santiago is, because in this novel, Santiago's not fighting his community; he's also fighting his old age, just like we do in society. In the modern day, we fight old age because we have all these products, all these makeup products, and all these things in the world to keep us young, to keep us to not age. And the novel kind of says in a way that, you know, old age, Father Time never loses, right? Even if we fight against it, Father Time never loses. So in his prime, probably Santiago could have killed this fish and take it home. He would have the energy, you'd have the power. But as an old man, he didn't have that ability anymore. So that's one of the meanings behind this novel. It's that um, once we reach an age, or we as humans, we fight against old age, we fight against tiredness, we fight against ourselves mentally. Because Santiago has a mental battle in this novel, because he for 3 days he has to keep himself awake. He has to feed himself. He has to fight with this fish. He has to fight with his physical being. He has to fight with his emotional being. It's a whole struggle that is impacting Santiago throughout this novel for the whole run. And I think, to me, that was very powerful, because you can see how strong Santiago is in this novel, because he's fighting on multiple fronts, and that is something that needs to be recognized. So the novel continues. Eventually, Santiago does kill this marlin. Very big. Again, it's 200 pounds. There's even a part in the novel where Santiago says, if I let this fish get control, it could tip my boat over. It could possibly kill me. So he does finally kill the fish. There's the whole novel, at least a good 2 quarters of this novel is this back and forth fight between this fish and Santiago. But he does finally kill it in the end, but he doesn't get to take it home. And this is why this novel is so sad, because Santiago, he spends 3 days, collecting this fish, going after his big prize. And in the end, he does kill the fish, but he harpoons the fish, and blood gets out. And since he's so far at sea, this blood attracts sharks. And this is like even worse. This man has spent so many time fighting for this fish to regain his honor in of a way, to regain who he was, to regain his respect in his community. And in the end, all of these sharks, smelling there's like this fish that's dead and the blood, they attack and they eat the fish before Santiago even got to take it back home. And it's heartbreaking, because he really fought for this. He was determined, he was persistent, and then at the end, he doesn't get to take his prize home. So that was very tough to swallow. So but one good thing to recognize here is, like, when these sharks are trying to eat his fish, he doesn't just let them have it. He fights against these sharks. He even kills some of them. Think about it. This old man, his old age, he's not. He doesn't fear anything at sea. He faces the sea itself head on. He fights the sharks. He fights the fish. He's fighting his old age, his mental state, his physical state. So really, this determination of Santiago's is very it's something that should be revered, because if we as individuals had that determination in the things that we want to achieve, I think we would go a long way. So Santiago fights the sharks. He kills some of them, but they win, because even though that he fought some of them, they ate his fish, and he makes it back home with only the skeleton of his fish, and that's really sad. In the end, he does regain his respect in of a way in his community, because everyone saw the skeleton, and this was a massive fish, and everyone was like, "How did this man hunt this fish?" Because they thought he was dead, because he spent 3 days out at sea. Like, everybody that he knew thought he was dead, but no, he was fine. He's an old man, but he's very capable of taking care of himself at sea. The most surprising thing that I saw in this novel was when he's fighting with this fish, and with his other hand he's catching other fish in the sea, and he's eating them raw. That was very tough. He's catching flying fish. He's eating them raw. he has this bottle of water. He's drinking from it. He's sleeping, sitting, like he's sitting and sleeping, so the fish doesn't escape. It's a very great novel. There's a lot within this novel, because it looks at human nature, and I think it says a lot about, especially old age. It says a lot about not letting some things define you. Most people, if they're old, if they can't do something, they let that circumstance define them, and basically say, if I'm old, I can't do this anymore. Santiago does not have that kind of mindset in this novel. He was like, I don't care if I'm old. I don't care if people are laughing at me. I don't care if this fish is too big or too strong or smarter. I'm going to do what I want to do, no matter what. And one funny thing is, Santiago is not a religious man in this novel, but trying to catch this fish, he's like, oh, let me pray so that I can catch this fish. The way he does it, everyone knows that famous the Mary uh, um, the Mary prayer. I don't remember it exactly, but he says it, but he puts the name of the fish in the prayer, and I think that was very interesting, very funny, because he takes a prayer and specifically fit it to his circumstance. So that was something that was really interesting to see, and it also kind of suggests that a lot of times when we are in the most hardest situations, I think that's when we reach out to God, and that's good. However you look at it, that can be good or bad. Some people, they only reach out to God when they're in a circumstance that they cannot change, or if the circumstance is too much for them. So Santiago, he doesn't specifically say he believes, but he kind of um, in of a way saying like anything that's gonna help me catch this fish, I'm gonna do it. So this novel, really great novel. It ends with Santiago going back home. He doesn't go back home with the fish. Goes back home with the skeleton. Kind of gets his respect back, and in the end, the boy really respects him. The boy that he really liked as an apprentice. And in the end, they say to each other, they're gonna fish together again. They're gonna be together again as a team, and they're gonna be fishermen. That's how the book really ends. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe. Tell me how you feel about the video. Tell me if it helps you in any way. And I'll see you guys next time for the next video. I'll see you soon.